Okay, ready?
Are we live?
Yeah, we're live. We're in the Action News van, is that right?
Yeah, here we are. This is the best van they've got. They typically give the smaller ones to the less important reporters.
Okay, so this is yours?
Yeah, this is mine.
Okay.
Conrad, I'm going to need the...
Oh.
Hang on a second, this is my producer. Yes, hello? Gotcha, here we come. Conrad, could you pass me the mic?
Let's go.
Okay, let's
do this.
Okay, we're ready. I think we might be double parked, Conrad.
It's all right, sir.
Sure, this is the right spot. Okay, here we go. So I locked that news in. We want to steal it. Jeez. Okay. All right, on me in 3, 2, 1. Good evening, Gananoque. This is live in real life. And we're live. This is the life, Conrad.
It's Connor, sir.
If I could name this chair anything, I'd call it Laurels. Because right now, I am resting on my laurels. Oh. Make yourself useful, Conrad.
Hello? Connor. No, Connor, sir.
Hello, sir. How are you going? Yeah, good. Oh, yes. No, I thought I filed that story. Yeah? No, we're working on something right now. I'm reaching right now for it. Definitely. Yeah, Conrad, we need to innovate. Now.
All right. Yeah. Well, I must admit, I can't explain any of these thoughts racing through my brain. It's true. Baby, I'm howling for you. All right.
Perfect. Cut. Dog!
Oh my goodness, is that your dog?
Dog! This isn't even my house!
Where are we going, sir?
We're gonna dig up an old story I covered about 6 months ago. Haven't quite finished it. Something crazy was happening in Gananoque. Something very innovative. Some teachers, some students were doing some pretty amazing things. I'm gonna finish what I started. As a fellow news reporter, Scott, I can tell you that there's been a lot of fantastic things happening over here at this Gananoque Intermediate Secondary School, and I might have got the scoop on you, but I'm willing to let you in on some of this.
All right, so you're covering the trial of Johnny Cade, right?
I am covering the trial of Johnny Cade.
And what's at stake here?
Basically what's at stake is Johnny Cade's life. If he is guilty, he will be sent away to prison for at least 25 years if they find him guilty of first-degree murder. However, if he manages to convince the jury of his peers that he is innocent of this crime, he will walk away free. The automobile, Corgi. Now, Henry Ford was an innovator. He built something that had never been done before. That's innovation. Everything else since has been cut and copied. It's a print of the same thing. That's not innovation.
Innovation is something entirely new.
We were both in charge of doing the CSI investigation of the trial. So what we looked at doing was recreating the crime scene at the Gananoque Town Park and collecting forensic evidence.
We contacted the Gananoque Police Services, and 2 constables came over and helped us recreate the crime scene. And then we brought the students over in role as forensic investigators, and they did detailed analysis and evidence collecting with the Gan Police Force, and then we brought the evidence back. Well, the students learned a real hands-on approach to a fictional novel in which the scientific evidence that was created at the crime scene and brought back was investigated in real time, real life situation.
Our community is it's a very close-knit community, and our police are a very valuable part of our school. So our kids got to see the police in a different way, in that mentor role. And throughout the trial itself, we really noticed our kids that can be reluctant and a little bit passive at the time, at times. They were immensely involved in the presentation of the evidence, and I believe their experience was really valued throughout the process.
And they also had the choice, so there was varying roles within the group, and they chose what role they wanted, and that the ownership part for the student, I think, went a long way as well. Well, the advantage is that it was hands-on. Number one, we were outside. It was the winter, but all our forensic group went over to the town park, hands-on, collected the evidence, again brought it back, and hands-on analyzed the evidence in the science lab. And just that hands-on approach creates a deeper understanding of what exactly we're after.
Are you sleeping in this car, sir?
Oh, we're experiencing some sort of power loss, Corgi. Pull her off to the side. I don't understand it. Everything looks okay. I had this thing checked last year. Creativity, Corgi, means looking at your toolbox and finding a creative solution to your problem.
So what we were doing was we were teaching the kids how to see the face and how to perceive it from an artistic perspective. So we taught them standard guidelines about breaking down proportions and where things should naturally fall, and then how to adjust that depending on the model that you're looking at. The great thing about using life models and teaching kids how to draw faces is that everyone can be each other's models all the time. So we broke the sections up into longer poses where they'd all be drawing the same person, and then we did exercises where the kids would simply draw each other.
I found that the kids did very well from their beginning. They put a lot of time, effort into it, and you could see the changes in how they went about sketching their faces, because at the beginning it looked like just big round faces with big eyes, and in the end the sketches actually had the features of actually the person that they were sketching.
Corgi, my man, this plan isn't working. What we need to do is shuffle up our ideas and go back to the start. We need teamwork, Corgi. This is your hour.
Our role was basically to facilitate the work that the prosecution and defense teams did. So Mrs. Zuber was in charge of the prosecution and I was in charge of the defense teams. Did several activities leading up to the trial that kind of cemented their understanding of what the charges were and how the court process works. And then we also worked with the law class in the secondary taught by Brian Giroux, and we went down there and did some case studies to kind of get some practice for the kids of what kind of things they could expect on the day of the trial.
We also brought in John Zuber, who's a lawyer in Kingston, and he went over some important information on what to know about the whole process of being a lawyer.
There was a unique opportunity for them to work together as a team with varying opinions, and really they had to take everyone's thoughts into consideration when they were deciding on how to build their case. So they really, especially because of us using the entire 7-8 division, the extended French kids got the opportunity to work with kids they wouldn't normally see on a day-to-day basis.
I was personally surprised at how seriously they took it. Like, they were in to win it. Like, it was like life or death was on the line there. Like, and I was surprised how much they got into character, which was really fun to see.
Yeah, I was really happy to see how seriously they took it and the fact that they felt so passionately one way or the other, and when they were doing the objections back and forth, I was sitting back in my chair and I was just watching them in amazement how excited they were to be a part of the whole process. I think they worked really well under pressure, and even some kids that you wouldn't normally think would thrive under those circumstances really stepped up and really delivered a lot of high quality work when they needed to. And I think the fact that we made it such an event and that it was seen as a big thing for all of them, they were really excited about it. I think that added to it and made it almost less stressful for them, because they knew that if they were well prepared for it, then they didn't know how it was going to work out, but they knew that they knew what role they had to play, and they all played it really well.
It was really great to see how well all of them came together. Like, it wasn't just the prosecution and defense, but it was the court officer, and it was the, you know, everyone took on their role and stuck with it, and it was very impressive.
When thinking critically to solve a problem, it's important, often, to organize your thoughts using a mind map. Here I've made a list of our assets, and this is, of course, me. This is the long and traveled path we must make to Gananoque, alongside the Thousand Islands. I have $2.85 to add to this problem.
We had the responsibility of working with the media group. In particular, I was working with the social media part.
And I was working with the newspaper part.
With the social media part, what we did was we actually had the reporters, both for the newspaper and for the social side of things, broken into the two sides of the setting of the story. So we had the east side and the west side of the story. So each side had a blog representing what was happening for the perspective of the east side, and we had a blog running from what's happening from the west side of the story, so our greasers and our socials.
And the same idea with the newspapers. We had two competing newspapers every day. We had the Socialist newspaper for the socials and the East Side Tribune for the East Side greasers. So basically every day they had articles and interviews with everybody, and they were competing, trying to sell newspapers with everybody up in the grade 7-8 room.
When the trial began, even if you weren't actually here on the actual day of the trial, you could still follow along and see what was happening within the trial as the kids were reporting both on blog and Twitter as the trial went on.
On the side, we had a section set up with laptops where students of the competing newspapers and editors were writing articles, fashion, sports, anything that they could report on concerning the trial.
So by using healthy competition between the two sides, kids got a better understanding of meeting deadlines and being creative so that they could make sure that they are aiming at their intended audience and keeping that viewership or that readership going throughout the trial.
To paraphrase the Egyptian poet Robert Burns, the best laid plans of mice and men can go awry. That is why, when life throws you a curveball, you've got to be ready for it. To see the task through to the end, from the start right down to the beginning. So, first thing we did was we hatched this idea, wouldn't it be cool if the kids learned from a news reporter about the work that they were going to do in the coming weeks. So we filmed these little vignettes where this news reporter, Brian Fantana, was introducing the work that was coming up and the due dates and sort of setting the scene, about the crisis about Johnny Cade and his trial that was coming up. And the kids really responded to that. They could go check it out on YouTube, and it was getting tons of hits. It was kind of neat, actually. Then we had to find some actors because we needed to have the roles in the trial, played by various kids. When you think about it, to be a grade 7 or 8 student and volunteer to be up in front of, at the time we were thinking, maybe our school, maybe parents, a few people. It ended up being several hundred people in that gym, all watching them. So it was pretty awesome, the kids that we got to do that. So we're prepping them from the roles, and what we decided to do was to have tell the story from 2 different angles. So we'd have the defense's version of the events, which is of course what you have in any trial today, right? The defense presents a certain story, and then the prosecution has their version of the events. So the kids got to act out these 2 storylines, and then we put it to music. It was it was awesome. It was a cool way to start the trial. It was a cool way of starting everybody up on the same page. So we went through that. Then, of course, we had to prep the actors for the trial. And what that means is they have to go over, they sort of need to prepare statements. So that it would jive with what was written in the book, and also they had to coordinate with the defense and the prosecution because each character was being called to be a witness for a specific purpose. So there were prosecution witnesses and defense witnesses, and they had to be on the same page with their respective legal people, if you will. And then not only have to prepare them for the defense, for the prosecution, but you have to prepare them to be cross-examined, and you have to prepare them to be on stage in front of what we realized. The week leading up, it's going to be a lot of people. So I have to say, I think they really challenged themselves, and I think they got a lot out of it, putting themselves out there in front of their peers. Yeah, I'm really proud of them. Gananoque, Ontario is like any small, sleepy town in the Thousand Islands. It has a beautiful history, it has a beautiful town hall, it has a beautiful garden. However, where our story ends is where a story of tragedy begins. Right here, at this very spot, the most infamous event in this small town's history occurred. The murder, or killing, of Bob Sheldon in March of 2013. Paralyzed by the crisis, the authorities called in a small school with some big ideas to tackle the problem themselves. Thanks to weeks of hard work and dedication, they managed to get down to the bottom of the problem. They had to use a number of tools. They had to be innovative. They had to be creative. They had to work together as a team. They had to think critically, and lastly, they needed to execute to bring justice to this wonderful small community.
So I want that new then.
me, 3, 2, 1. Good evening, Gananoque, ladies. This is my name, Bowlby, and 10 recording live from Gananoque.
I'm tearing up across your face. Moved us to the light. Tough eyes, your name. It's something faint. This is not a place, not yet awake. I'm raised in late. Just gonna laugh for you. Forest for the soft, Gananoque little loft. So I'm reading all your stories. What I know what it is pouring, wiring up. You're breaking your ground.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Johnny Cade, guilty of the Criminal Code Section 232.1, voluntary manslaughter.